Coming up on the Paper Talk today, most of the news is focusing on Ruben Amorim, his post-match comments. Where does that result leave the Manchester United manager? Is he feeling the pressure? Is he under real pressure? Let's get into it. Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and the weather is... it's mild. Get involved in all the chat and the comments. Most of the news stories this morning focusing on yesterday's game. It's the morning after the night before. Manchester United losing the Manchester derby 3-0 at the Etihad. Not a good game by any stretch of the imagination for Ruben Amorim or his players. And there's been a lot of sort of finger pointing in the blame game, and fans have been divided over who should be to blame. I mean, is it the players? Is it the manager? Is it both? And I think, to be honest with you, that's where I stand. I think the manager has to take some responsibility, as always, and the players have to take some responsibility because it just wasn't good enough. A lot of individual errors, which you can't just pin them on the manager, but also the manager's overall record and the fact it's yet another loss under Ruben Amorim isn't great reading, and he's been quite candid, as he always is, about that, and we've seen it. The quotes from the post-match presser, we've had them on the channel. Lots of the newspapers this morning are focusing on those quotes, trying to dissect them. What do they mean? What does it mean for this manager? How much pressure is he under? And does he need to change his system? His system has become the main talking point in many of the papers this morning. It was a big talking point for our post-match review. Now, he's spoken about it, and he's spoken about his philosophy, not changing his philosophy, not changing the way he plays. And he said that last night. But what he often does, Ruben Amorim, and he did it in his post-match press conferences, he'll say one thing, but he'll also leave a little bit of a room for manoeuvre. So he was saying he's not going to change until he does change. So you can interpret that however you will. Does that mean he's never going to change? Does that mean he will eventually change? When it comes to his system and his tactics and his formation, it's a little bit vague, to be honest with you, and some people will look at it one way and go, this is a stubborn manager who's just refusing to budge. Others will say, well, he is kind of saying he's leaving the door open to adapting, to changing if he needs to, and he says, when I need to change, I will change. So it is we're a little bit unsure as to what exactly he's going to do. We know that a lot of focus has been on this however you want to call it, 3-4-2-1 formation, basically. This two-man midfield, is it working? A lot of criticism for Bruno Fernandes, or for the position Bruno Fernandes finds himself in. He hasn't been great. He wasn't great at the Etihad, and some people looking at it going, this just isn't getting the best out of Bruno Fernandes. And Bruno Fernandes, he spoke after the match, and he's always quite honest, as the manager is as well. But there's a lot of focus on the sort of the system and whether you're getting the best out of Bruno. Now, the manager was asked about this in his post-match press conference. I think it was James Ducker from The Telegraph, if my hearing was right. That's who it sounded like to me anyway. Asked him about Bruno Fernandes and whether he's getting the best out of him. And he was quite defiant, the manager. He was saying, well, you look at the Arsenal game, we played well with that midfield, going up against the likes of Zubimendi, Martin Odegaard and Declan Rice. Did you not think it worked then? Now, it does worry me a little bit when I see Ruben Amorim like this, because he's getting a little bit more prickly in some of these press conferences. We saw it earlier on in the season when he was asked about Olsi Bayern. He got a little bit, for his standards, quite angry. It wasn't like he was raging. I've seen managers here be far angrier than Ruben Amorim ever has. You know, there's nothing compared to what we used to see from the likes of Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, or even Sir Alex Ferguson, of course. But he did have a little bit of an edge to him. He seemed annoyed at that question, and he was sort of defending Bruno Fernandes, defending the midfield and defending the system. Now, he's coming in for a little bit more stick as well, because Kobbie Mainoo, when he came on, did quite well. I think he had 17 out of 17 passes, 100% pass completion rate. He went on a good dribble as well, won all his duels. So he was a player that when he came on, he's only 30-odd minutes, did really well. And people looking at it going, you've got this system where you're only playing a two-man midfield. It isn't quite working. Kobbie Mainoo, I think, so far has had around 75, 78 minutes of first-team football in the Premier League. I know he played against Grimsby. So are we sort of missing a trick here by having this two-man midfield, moving Bruno Fernandes to a position he doesn't really like, and not playing someone like Kobbie Mainoo? Is there not an easy fix here if you were to go to a 4-3-3 or whatever? So he is going to face these questions whilst Manchester United continue to lose football matches. And just on that front, I'm sure you're aware of the stats, but I'll tell them you anyway, because it's what a lot of the papers are focusing on. Manchester United have had their worst start to a Premier League season, I think, since 92, 93, is it? Something like that, with 4 points from the opening 4 games. Not great reading for Ruben Amorim, and he said it's not a good record and not a record he's proud of. I think we've only won 27% of our Premier League matches under Ruben Amorim as well, winning less than a third of your matches as United manager. Again, not a record he wants, and he said it, but it's another record that is being focused on by many in the media this morning. And to add insult to injury, I think since Ruben Amorim has come in, and people love this stat or love to sort of focus on the teams that are currently in the Premier League, I think we've taken fewer points than any other team in the Premier League over that period of time. So not the relegated teams, but the teams that are in now, something like that. Yeah, just not a great start, whichever way you look at it. I think we're 17th out of those 17 teams that have been in the Premier League for both seasons. That's what I'm getting at. So, yeah, all the stats are just adding up against Ruben Amorim. People are questioning his tactics, his philosophy. People are questioning where he's deploying players. Is he getting the best out of them? And it's just not a happy camp for Ruben Amorim at the minute. Now, he's got some big games coming up. Least of all, the game against Chelsea next weekend, or this weekend, I should say, here at Old Trafford. Huge game. A game that realistically United needs to win. If we were to draw that game, do I think Ruben Amorim's going to be sacked? No, I don't. But you look at some of the other games we've got coming up. I think we've got Brentford and we've got Sunderland. He needs to win. He needs to take at least, I don't know, 5 points for the next 3 games, I think. Because after that, I think you've got a break. Then you've got, is it Liverpool on the horizon? I mean, if you cannot go into that Liverpool game on the back of a run of defeats, because it's Anfield as well, is an unforgiving place, and that could be the death knell for Ruben Amorim. Now, look, I like Ruben Amorim. I've backed Ruben Amorim. I continue to back him, but how long are Ineos going to stick with the manager if we don't start picking up points? Now, I'm not just talking about the Etihad game, because anyone can lose at the Etihad. I know they haven't been great this season, but let's be honest, Manchester City, when they're on it, are one of the best teams in the league, and there's no real shame, even though the nature of the performance wasn't good enough, in losing at the Etihad. However, when you add it into the fact that this is Manchester United's worst start since 92-93, when you add it into the fact that I think we've taken the least amount of points out of all the teams that are currently in the Premier League that were here last season, when you look at the fact the manager's won 27%, I think, of his Premier League games, when you look at the fact that each press conference he seems to get asked about his tactics, about his formation, in a negative way. No one's praising these tactics. No one's saying, well done, how have you managed to do it? People are looking at it. And then you get these stats that are almost skewing it a little bit. People say, I saw one this morning, United have scored 1 goal from open play this season, and I think, well, is that true? Does the goal at Fulham not count? Does the goal against Burnley that wasn't the penalty not count? Are they sort of technically not from open play? I don't know. Is that? I think sometimes people can sort of alter stats or look at them a certain way, but whatever way you want to look at them, they're not great reading. And this is a manager that is under pressure. Now, Ineos backed him. Ineos backed him severely. We know that Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada were the ones that were sort of advocating for bringing him here. Dan Ashworth wasn't. They got rid of Dan Ashworth. So you'd imagine that the likes of Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, if they are talking to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, are going to be saying, look, this is the right guy. This is the guy you need to stick with, because they're the ones that recommended him. They're the ones that wanted to bring him in. However, if these results don't improve, it is going to get to the point where serious questions are going to be asked. They're already getting asked by a lot of fans. And it isn't just people being overreactionary. I understand that we've had it before where a manager can lose a few games and people go, oh, get him out, you've got to go, and all the rest of it. And sometimes fans can be a little bit premature. But I've said it before and I said it again. When you look at the evidence, when you look at the games we've had and how it hasn't improved, it doesn't make great reading. And a big problem for Ruben Amorim, of course, this season is we haven't got European football. We obviously lost that Europa League final, that scuppered our chances of getting European football. So the payoff for that was, well, we've only got 1 game a week now. We can focus on the Premier League. And if our record in the Premier League is the worst we've had, or the worst start we've had in 30-odd years, that doesn't do you any favours. I know this has been very heavy about Ruben Amorim, about his tactics. There was one thing I want to add as well. He made the comment about, sort of, I'm paraphrasing here, you know, he's basically sort of, he put the ball in the court of Ineos and said, you know, it's up to them if they want to sort of stick with me, basically. I'm paraphrasing. But that's more or less what he said. He said, you know, that's on them if they want to change the man, but as long as I'm here, this is what I'm going to do. It's just that little bit of a hint that he understands that maybe Ineos might start looking elsewhere if things don't improve. It does seem to be creeping in. We saw his reaction after the Grimsby game. He looked like a man who had the weight of the world on his shoulders, and he was very defeated. He sounded defeated. I know he'd lost the game, but his attitude wasn't great. And I'm not having a criticism of him, because I don't expect anyone to be sort of doing cartwheels after you've just lost to Grimsby in a Carabao Cup game. But the way he came across was someone who was feeling the pressure and was maybe just getting fed up with it all. And I see that a little bit more in Ruben Amorim. Do you think I'm being melodramatic? Get involved in the chat in the comments. Where do you stand on this? Because I know this paper talk has been focused on the manager and his tactics and the result, but that is what all the papers are talking about. And the noise is only going to get louder if United don't start picking up results. We need to start getting results. And the good thing for Ruben Amorim is you've got winnable games coming up. Chelsea aren't unbeatable. I watched them against Brentford. They were okay. You can beat Chelsea. Who else have we got? Was it Sunderland? You can beat Sunderland. You can beat Brentford. Get these wins. Get some results. and then we can look ahead to the Anfield game. Maybe you can go into that one without the real pressure on you and just give yourself a little bit more time. Anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Make sure if you're not doing so already, you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Go and check out our merchandise as well. We have got some Paddock merch on it that is available. There's a link in the description, a link in the pinned comment as well. We're back later on with the Paddock podcast. We've got Mark Critchley from The Athletic joining us for that. Plus, we're going to have Ronaldo Brown as well. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Paper Talk from pretty grim Old Trafford in more ways than one. Thanks for watching.